everybody, and welcome to a live edition of the PokerNews podcast. We are really trying to get this streaming live going. I, for one, do not think that I should be in charge of this kind of a thing. This, technology is maybe not my strong suit. Audio is definitely not my strong suit, but we're doing the best we can. And Chad and Jeff are obviously just pretty faces, so hopefully they can carry the show for us for the most part. Welcome, you guys. It is a St. Patrick's Day edition of the PokerNews podcast. Although if you guys are listening and not live with us, you will likely hear this the day after St. Patty's. So this may just be like a hangover type podcast for you, up to you. Jeff, who basically owns GGpoker.
Debatable.
You told us that you were going to spend this weekend playing on GG, making all the big scores, capturing all of the titles while you were in Cabo San Lucas. Is that what went down?
Yeah, fortunate enough to join the fam in Cabo for a couple days, and I said, Sunday, I got to be alone on Sunday. Just let me fire a Sunday slate on GGpoker for the very first time. It was a magical experience. It was everything that I ever dreamed of. The site was so cool. As far as results go, Sarah, I don't think results don't matter. I'll just remember the experience of playing on GG, my debut appearance on GGpoker. It was phenomenal. Maybe I lost a little bit of money. Maybe I didn't play well at all. But when do I ever play well? So it just worked. It just fit. It was just cool to play on GG.
Overrated. Chad, do you ever get to play? You didn't even get to participate in the Michigan Coop, right?
No, but I actually have played on GG in the past. It was prior to the pandemic. I was over in London for some business meetings, and we had like this little office game, and one of the guys was playing GGpoker on his phone. And I guess I'm about to admit that I don't know, it's not multi-accounting, but I play, I'm like, let me see what this is about. So he handed me his phone. He was playing 1 cent, 2 cent, no limit. And I fiddled around. I think I won him like 25 cents. And, but I got to experience, the software and the gameplay, and it was pretty nice. It was smooth. I look forward to the day where I have easier access in my own account to play on GGpoker.
Coming soon to the United States of America, and by soon, hopefully within the next couple of years, into a couple of states.
So Chad, as someone who just admitted this on live, the live
Gonna have to
podcast,
report, Chad.
We have to talk to Jeff because we know Jeff represents the brand, and
Yep.
I'm not really sure if this looks good for us or GG. Is that going to be okay, Jeff? Are we still going to be able to have GG
We're just
sponsor
going
us?
to pretend that we didn't hear that maybe Chad's audio went out for a little bit, and I wasn't able to hear what Chad had to say. Chad, this is your first and final warning. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, and they're serious about those things. They will pull your sponsorship like immediately. So, all right. Well,
Still not sponsored, but yes.
Yeah. Speaking of GGpoker, let's talk a little bit about, last week were kind of balls deep in the middle of the Fedor Limitless challenge. I think for a lot of people, I don't want to say it was surprising, but it was seeming like it was easy peasy for Fedor for the most part, and especially for someone who didn't appear to be studying or playing a lot of heads up high stake. I was relatively shocked. Jeff, were you watching the whole thing?
I was not watching the whole thing. I know, Sarah, you could probably give us a hand-by-hand breakdown, a recap of this face-off challenge between Fedor and Wiktor Malinowski, who is known as Limitless online. It's Fedor coming out on top after 4 sessions, winning more than $90,000. It really just seemed like a smooth ride for Fedor throughout the first 3 sessions. Limitless was fantastic on session 4, but I just think he dug a bit too deep of a hole. Sarah, you said it. Fedor was the underdog going in. Many expected Limitless to take this, and within such a short sample size for a challenge, I really think it probably should have been a coin flip, and it's a coin flip that Fedor won. So 90K headed in Fedor's direction. I'm sure he really needed it.
And I did see some social media where all of the important and temporal news comes from, where basically Fedor was calling him like Foldanowski or something like that. And I mean, it's a very, very small sample size, but I think based on his personality, I would have anticipated Limitless to be hyper aggressive, not maybe the converse. Were people surprised by his play style, or maybe just more annoyed that he was playing like other tables and acted like
I'm not sure how much focus Limitless devoted to this face-off challenge. It was pretty clear while he was playing, and it's also pretty clear when you just looked at tournaments that all of the sites had, and you saw Limitless's name in all of them. And in some spots, he would ask Fedor, "Hey, do you know this guy? You know, I'm playing him in this hand, and he did X, Y, and Z." So you could tell that the focus was not there. I'm sure the focus would be there if they ramped up the stakes. The stakes are going to be significantly ramped up when Limitless faces MJ Gonzales, who is Daniel Negreanu's coach. They are going to play with $3 million each in front of them coming up in the next couple months at the PokerGo studios. So that will have Limitless's undivided attention, I'm sure.
Wow. Okay. And so are you familiar with this character?
With MJ?
Yeah.
I'm becoming more familiar with him, I would say. I think, his coaching of Daniel over these last couple of years is starting to bring him into the spotlight, but not just that. He wants to challenge the best of the best, like Limitless, for example. And he wants to put millions of dollars on the line. On our PokerGo show, No Gamble, No Future, that I do with Brent, he challenged Phil Ivey. Very respectful way of challenging Ivey, but he wants to play the top names in the game for an absurd amount of money. So I think he is going to enter the major spotlight as far as poker is concerned by the end of the year.
Is he rich, or is Daniel bankrolling him?
That's a good question. He has this poker coaching product, Hybrid Poker, that I think a lot of the top names have paid a decent amount of money for. So I know he's made money through that, and also through actually playing poker. He had a couple final tables at the World Series of Poker in 2019. I think he's doing all right financially.
I mean, all right financially is one thing, but taking on all of the biggest names and heads up no limit is like a whole other thing that only probably people like Jeff Platt, who are so rich, can really relate to. Also Chad, who just warms up with one case.
Yeah, Chad's very, yeah.
All right, well, for those who are with us live, I'm going to try to do this little spot to GGpoker right now live, and if not, then for those who are listening, let's just hear a little shout out from our homies at GGpoker.
Kevin Martin from GGpoker here, and I just gotta ask, have you heard about GG Care? Oh, you haven't? Well, guess what? It's the new daily promotion that rewards you for experiencing all the bad luck poker has to offer. The bad beats, the coolers, the suckouts, they're so frustrating. We hate them so much, but they cannot be avoided. But now, if you experience a bad beat on GGpoker, GG Care has your back. You'll automatically be registered to play in the next daily $30,000 GG Care flip out tournament. Here's the best part. You don't even have to be online for these flip out tournaments. Yes, you still have a chance for cash to go right into your balance. So remember, next time you're on GGpoker and you take a bad beat, GG Care has your back. So if you have not joined the fastest online growing website, then make sure you join the GGpoker community and join me at the tables very soon.
All right, cool. Well, moving on from GG, we do also have another sponsor we want to get to. But before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about the WPT Gardens. And our guest this week is Chance Kornuth, who we talked to just after the event. And he was really candid in his responses. And I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you guys. Chad, you want to talk to us a little bit about the WPT Gardens?
Yeah, enough of this heads up challenge stuff. I like my MTTs. Let's get some, six-handed final table action going in, and it's back after a long delay, over a year. The WPT Gardens played out at PokerGo Studio in Las Vegas. As Chance Kornuth had said leading up to it, he was the longest reigning chip leader in a major tournament in poker history, I think. Like I said, over a year, he was waiting to come play this out. Unfortunately, things did not go his way. He ended up busting in fourth place for $195,000. Also at that final table was Qing Liu, who we talked about in the last episode. He just won the WPT Venetian for $750,000. he was looking to win 2 WPT titles in 2 days because he was at this final table as well. He was a short stack though, ended up busting first, sixth place for 111,000. Still not a bad 2-day total for him. The title ended up coming down to Markus Gonsalves and Tuan Phan. The former started heads up play with a 5-1 chip lead. Tuan Phan did manage to battle back, even took over the chip lead, but the pendulum swung back the other way. It was Markus Gonsalves taking it down for $555,000. Gets his name on the WPT Champions Cup, the Mike Sexton Champions Cup. And yeah, it was exciting to get one of these final tables out of the way. There are still 2 more that need to be played out. I believe the Borgata and LAPC final tables, and they will take place also at PokerGo Studios, but not until May.
So I really appreciated, Chance. I asked him about how I think emotionally difficult it is sometimes to come into a final table, the chip leader, because just like when we talked to Joseph Ebert in December, there's a lot of expectation, I think, right? If you win, it's like, yeah, of course you should have won because you had all the chips. And then if you lose, then it ends up feeling, like I think even a greater loss than Chance does. He does share with us that this was a much more devastating loss than he really had anticipated it being. And a big part of that was also that he had been waiting for this final table for so long, and there was so much, I think, expectation on his shoulders. So we'll go to a quick little snippet from Elite Chip Care, followed by my interview with Chance Kornuth.
Chips dirty and unsanitary? Elite Chip Care's ultrasonic cleaners kill bacteria and pathogens without using chemicals. Protect your team from potentially hazardous chemicals, UV, and gases. For daily sanitizing of your chips, our laboratory oven will eradicate most viruses using only heat. Up to 2,500 chips sanitized in just 3 minutes. Avoid the reoccurring expense of costly chemicals, UV bulbs, and gases. Safe, inexpensive, and sustainable. Visit EliteChipCare.com.
I reached out to you, ages ago, maybe like December or something, to talk about the Galfond challenge, which I'm sure there's a lot to break down and a lot to talk about. And I think before, we get into it being over, I really want to talk about, I think everyone was really impressed with and surprised by how well you were doing. That's a terrible thing to say, but Phil's like the PLO end boss, and obviously he'd been really working on his game against the other best people in the world. And so PLO's never been your specialty. Can you talk to me a little bit about choosing, to jump into this, and B, what your sort of training situation looked like, how much you had to put into it?
Yeah, well, I would say like right after Black Friday, I actually did kind of specialize in heads up PLO. Like I'd sleep next to my laptop and wait for certain people, and I'd battle some of the good regs, and but I didn't really do it at the time when like people would know that it was on Chance's cards on Full Tilt, or Chance CU on PokerStars. Like I did it on like a lot of the off, like not the prime sites. But I battled like a ton, and even though I hadn't, like when I accepted a challenge, I hadn't in a while. Like my PLO game was still pretty sharp. But I had a lot of help with the studying. I had physical routine, mental routine. Someone who would like do all the solver outputs that I would look into. Like for example, I was prepared for a pre-flop strategy of like X% raise, X% limp, and like Phil had 0 limps, which means his raise frequency goes up. So therefore, like his fold to 3-bet frequency goes up. So my 3-bet percentage goes from 13 to 15. And so like, studying all that stuff and really learning like which board textures or C-bets and stuff like that. Like it was really a fun process for me. And like, it's so much different than learning like heads up no limit, because there's like, in heads up no limit, like most of the hands, it's like, all right, this is a pure bet or this is a pure check. So it's like very simple. But like one of the reasons Phil and I would like take so much longer on our actions is because a lot of the hands we had are like, okay, you bet this hand 60% of the time, you check it 40% of the time. So it's like, all right, do I go to my random number generator? It's like, or do I want to make a deviation based upon how I think he's playing right now? Like if his check raise seems high right now, well, I'm going to see that more of my good hands and less of my bad ones, or like adjust those frequencies in those different manners. So I feel like heads up PLO is just much more intricate than heads up no limit.
Yeah, I mean,
heads up and also not heads up? Isn't PLO just I mean, you've got 2 extra cards. You've got 4 cards to start with even.
There's definitely a lot more going on.
So you decided to go into this. Were you considering, because obviously Phil, this is like in large part a marketing, campaign for his site. Did you also see this as an opportunity to raise awareness for your own business, for your own coaching site? Like what are some of the reasons that went into you being like, okay, because it's going to be very time consuming and laborious and you're just about to have a baby, and let's talk about, reasons why you jumped into it.
Well, when I accepted the challenge, we weren't even pregnant yet. We were trying, and then it happened we probably were, but didn't know yet. It was like really, really early on. And also like I was doing my calculations about how long it would take based upon the number of hands per hour he played in his other matches. But his other 2 opponents before me, Benny and Action Freak, like acted much quicker. So Phil and I both acting slower, the number of hands per hour we were seeing was so much lower. And so like I really wasn't planning on committing 4 months of my life to playing the best player in the world. And definitely did it for some marketing and publicity for Chip Leader. And we're releasing a bunch of stuff coming up soon. And so, I'm still happy that I did it. And, even if I lost a bunch of money, like just the skills that I learned in that game, I expect it to pay for itself over and over the next, 5-10 years.
Absolutely. And I feel like I've done interviews with a lot of the people who've been involved in these heads up challenges in the last, 6 months or so. And basically everyone has said, okay, like if I knew what it was going to look like before, would I have decided to do it? Maybe not. But where I am now and all the information I've gained and the knowledge I've gained now, I'm really happy that I made this choice and really happy that I did it. Now you ultimately decided to concede like at the very end of January. So it was relatively close to when you guys were I think going to finish anyways. Can you talk a little bit about that also? I actually really respect that a lot. I think it's such a I don't know, I guess like it can become like a pissing contest or like oh never, but it's like just being honest and real and like this is money, dude, and you've got a family. Like talk to us about that decision.
Well, it was kind of a combination of things. Like the first thing was that the number of hands left, like with 10,000 hands left being down $750,000, like my odds of coming back were quite low. But I would say like it hinged more on the factor like when he went on, his first heater and was up a couple 100,000 like in the very early ons in the match. I thought like I was running atrocious in all ins and like turns and rivers and like we put in 15K each and the river's a complete brick and I had 40% equity. And then like during my heater, like I was definitely like running well. And like, but I also was like, had a lot of confidence. Like he was folding when I was bluffing. He was calling when I was value betting. Like everything was just kind of going really well. And then when he went back on his heater that took him to the victory, when I was down like 200 or 300, like I noticed that things weren't the same. Like some of my bluffs were getting called in spots that I was surprised to see him call. There were spots where like I was very confident in the early stages that I wasn't getting like bluffed in big pots, but I think he made like some big adjustments there. And so like, you can look at like the middle stages where I had like a few 6-figure wins in a row, which is only 5 buy-ins, but like it's just kind of when you're playing 500 hands in a day, like that's going to happen X number of percent of the time. And so like when that kind of stopped happening, like it was very clear to me that Phil had made some adjustments and had figured out some things in my game. Maybe it was probably I have a pretty good idea of what the spots are now, but like in the moment and like playing, it was like much more difficult to identify them. And so I kind of realized that, he did have a reasonable edge. And so like my odds of coming back and winning the side bet were like so low that it didn't justify possible future losings in the match.
That makes total sense as a person based in logic and making this your job. And you also had plenty of other things on your plate and coming up. And the irony, I hope, is not lost on us that being the owner of, should I say owner, founder, whatever, of Chip Leader, that you were the chip leader of the WPT Gardens for a year, which seemed like 100 years to the rest of us. And that's just played out two days ago. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that, but also a little bit about, so this tournament was actually, was it one of the ones that was originally scheduled to play out in a couple months?
Yeah, it's supposed to be like 6 weeks in the Luxor Esports Arena.
And
But
so
COVID hit.
let's talk about that first to begin with, because there was a little bit of controversy or questions about, some players were excited about that opportunity, other players not so much. What did you ultimately think it behooved you to get more press, to, be able to have this kind of big, cool live event? Or was it kind of also like, as a chip leader, you almost always just want to keep like running with the momentum that you have?
Yeah, I mean, the table, the way it was playing when we got down to six-handed was definitely very favorable for me. And in fact, a year later, I thought everyone at the table played considerably better than they had previously, which makes sense. People have plenty of time to like work on their game and like look forward to something. And yeah, so like obviously, I think that it's benefits the chip leader probably if it doesn't stop. But from a publicity perspective, and like because I have chip leader, I was definitely really happy to play on a larger stage. But then when it just kept getting pushed back, that happiness declined.
Yeah, I can't even imagine for you and how disconnected you become from that event, from those players, that in life, and especially in poker life, a year ago is an eternity, and in parent life, it's like 100 eternities. So talk to me a little bit about then stepping back, like, okay, getting back into it a couple days ago. What was the vibe? What did it feel like? Was it so different now? Because I know PokerGo Studios is gorgeous, obviously, and a great place to play, but we were anticipating like a live dome, basically like an arena full of spectators. Was there any like letdown because of that also?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I played a bunch in the PokerGo studio, but I've never played in the Luxor Esports Arena. Like, I thought that'd be pretty cool. So, a little bit of a letdown. And also just like being in that environment, it's not like the same with like COVID, like everyone's wearing masks and like, I don't know, like the whole studio was kind of like cleaned out to prepare for this. Like, it was just kind of peculiar. It definitely wasn't, the same ambiance that the Luxor would have been.
Well, just at the WSOPA, I had a conversation with Joseph Ebert, who came into the main event final table, a pretty dominating chip leader, about really how, of course, it's great to come in as a chip leader. Everyone, would like to come in as a chip leader, but it also can be a lot of, I think, pressure in a spot where like a huge percentage of the time the chip leader does not win the event. But I think that there's this expectation. And can you talk a little bit about everyone being like, oh, Chance is the favorite. Chance is, for sure going to win this thing. And like, that's really just not realistic in poker, but it does, I think, add a lot of pressure.
It's kind of weird, like going into it, and like I said, a year ago, my skill edge was larger than it was 2 days ago. But like with 30% of the chips in play, I think I probably was expected to, like, had we played right away, I probably expected to win 40% of the time. And like, I think getting fourth or worse happens less than 10% of the time. And something about like anticipation, the build up, the expectation, it was actually like I've busted in bigger spots before and just like no big deal, shrugged my shoulders. But busting 2 days ago actually like really like bugged me. Like I was considerably more disappointed than I've like ever been busting a tournament, which was really weird, especially for me. And like, today I'm fine again, but normally it takes me like 15 minutes, have a drink, and totally over it. But it took me considerably longer in the last one. I think it was because of that year-long anticipation and like the expectations of doing better, put on myself and others.
I mean, it makes total sense. Of course, there's so many different things going on there. And it kind of seemed like I was just reading back through the blog. I guess I could also see how it was disappointing a little bit in the sense that there weren't a lot of big climactic moments. There wasn't this like, oh, I just made this horrible decision, or, oh, I just got, beat here. It just seemed like there really wasn't a lot of opportunity to get anything going.
Yeah, it was like super frustrating. I felt like I just like lost every pot. And even like, win the first couple pots and then run queens into kings in a spot where like, if it wasn't on the live stream, I would have just folded on the ace high board. Like just like, even though I know it's not GTO, then I'm supposed to continue on the flop. Like you just like, I knew that he wasn't light right there. And so there's like a couple extra 100,000 there, a couple extra 100,000 calling a couple of rivers that were mistakes. And definitely didn't like play my best. So it was pretty frustrating, but like, not to mention the lack of like things, like it was like, they made a pair every hand, it's like, it's hard to bluff when they're making pairs and you have zero equity. So yeah, I think that was one of the reasons that I was so disappointed, was like, it's an opportunity to play with a stack and like with ICM pressure and really like to have a lot of fun and play a lot of pots. And I didn't have a lot of fun. Like, it was pretty frustrating.
I mean, that's definitely the worst part about, expectations, and because
Yeah.
so often they're
Yeah. And like, I think that mental gap of like expectation versus reality causes a lot of like mental pain and anguish and suffering. And like, I think that curbing your expectations is really healthy and like normally something I'm quite good at. But it was like a perfect storm of like a whole year being the chip leader, anticipation, it's just like, I don't know, something about it affected me a lot more mentally than normal. So that was like a new experience for me.
I have a feeling, though, that our audience will really appreciate that candor and that honesty. I do think there's this, sense that all these, amazing poker players that we listen to are just robots and they never have any, heart in the moment, but that it is still disappointing sometimes, even when
Yeah.
you're like the Zen master and even
Yeah.
when you've got it all figured
Even
out.
from my bubbly self, it's
That's it. Even from the best smile in poker, sometimes things sting a little bit. I wanted to ask you, though, too, one of the Twitter questions was something I also just sort of was interested in talking to you a little bit about. Is we're in this kind of weird time still, but where poker's like coming back a little bit, which is exciting. But you've got a lot of different things, a lot of different stuff going on your plate. You're in a really new place in your life, I think, right now than you were a few years ago. So what does the future at this point look like for Chance Kornuth?
it's for the next 6 months. I think it's going to be a surprising amount of work. Launching Chip Leader AI, and then also Foxen and I are working on the closer, coupled with the fact that live poker is coming back, and I really do want to win a WPT, or like, going deep in playing these final tables typically is really fun. And so it just reminded me like that it is a good opportunity. So like today I'm going to play the 3,500 at the Wynn. Next weekend I'll probably go play the 10K in LA. But I'm not going to travel like far. Like I want to be able to, like, if I bust, like have it be really easy to come home and spend time with my family. So I think I'm going to work really hard in these next 6 months. And that way I can kind of relax and calm down when Ryan is starting to actually grow into a real human instead of a crying baby.
Dude, legit, like after 6 or 9 months or something, it's like so much more fun. Like so much
Well, and
cooler.
she's still so much fun. Like we do little baby calisthenics where like at first she was like just on the floor, like doing tummy time on her little pad or jungle gym thing. And like I put my hands on her feet and she'd like push herself across the mat. But like, I gotta get her stronger faster. So like we were doing that in an incline, like on my chest, And so it's like, I've been working around little baby calisthenics, and like we talk back and forth, and like she coos and I make noises back, and like, and that's a big change in the last 2 months. So I can't wait to see what other changes happen in the next couple.
That's it. Like just when the interactions start, right? It's like, we're like people now exchanging little moments. And it's so funny because there's just dads are just so different. Like dads just approach it in a little different way. I like dads are like, I'm gonna see if I can get her to like move around and moms are like, I just want to snuggle, like get her in here and just like love on her. It's just so funny. Like no matter who you are, there's these little kind of standard things. And so as a dad now, I'm excited to hear actually that you're not planning on traveling as much, but do you think that you guys will travel together as a family? It's such a weird world to look at. Like, are we going to be able to travel now? Like, can you go to Mexico and just like speed off?
I'm not interested in Emily and Ryan coming to like a poker stop, but we do have a trip planned for this Christmas this year to Turks and Caicos with our family. And so like Ryan will come on that, and like it'll be fun. So we definitely do plan on traveling. I don't really see the need or have the desire to have Emily and Ryan at a casino. Sorry, let me close this.
It's okay. No, I'm with you. And I think like it mostly only makes more sense when it's like, oh, we're going for like the WPT, or like we're going for something that lasts like a long time, and that you guys could have days off together, like legit days off. That's what people would always be like, oh, does he like travel with you to the stops? I'm like, it's work. Like, no, what about, it's not like we're like hanging out together. What, are you gonna go eat by himself and then I can go like just grab a power bar wherever we are. Like it doesn't work like that. But I told you I would only take 30 minutes of your life because I know that you.
Oh no, sorry, my Telegram's making noise. I have to like go into the task manager to close it.
Oh, it's fine. People keep messaging me too. They can't hear me on the live side of things, which no one cares if they can hear me. But I'm like, you couldn't hear me before, so it's probably more important that you can hear me.
Yeah, I gotta hear the questions for sure.
Yeah. And I can fix the rest at some point. We'll figure out how to get it going. But talk to us a little bit about, so you're heading to the Wynn now, and then are you able to share with us about some of these projects Chip Leader is going to be doing or launching, or where can people follow so they can find out more?
The first one that'll come out will be Chip Leader AI, and we partnered, I don't know, almost 2 years ago now, with an artificial intelligence learning platform that you can actually program to teach anything. And so we spent over $250,000 and thousands of hours in the last 2 years programming this AI brain to teach tournament poker. And so it's like, imagine you are really good at like 3-betting, but you're really bad at like c-betting and 3-bet pots. So the brain actually knows, okay, well, they mastered 3-betting, so we're not going to feed them any more 3-betting questions, but we're going to continue to feed them questions on flop c-bets and 3-bet pots until they're able to move on to the turn. Or you're good at defending the big blind pre-flop, but you're terrible at facing c-bets. And so it like basically the brain will feed you the questions that you need to improve on based upon what you've gotten right and wrong in the future. And it also like learns your learning style and like will tailor the entire engine to each person individually. And so there'll also be a community in which Fox and I and some of the other CLC coaches and staff will be responding, and just a standard poker community. And then the next product that we're coming out with soon is the Closer, which will be like an all-encompassing tournament, like giant course with tons of hours of videos where Fox and I review hands and talk about like all of the criteria that you need to think of when you're looking at a situation based on our stack size, the stage in the tournament, our opponent's perceived image, just like all of the really important stuff that matters. And we're really going to break down what goes through our minds when we're making a poker decision.
Dude, that's the dream. Like all of the above, actually. That checks all the boxes for, I think, what people are looking for when they're trying to figure out how to get better, be better. Where can people, I guess, stay tuned, sign up, find out, like as these things are coming out?
Just go to chipleader.com or clcpoker.com. I think they all go to the same place now. Pop your email address in and we'll notify you when things become available. And the other thing is like the biggest problem we think with poker learning and coaching right now is that like people are just getting these solver outputs and they really don't know what to do with them. So like Foxen and I personally think like tournaments have like overall the regs especially, it's like things have gotten softer in the last year because everyone's like so caught up on these like solver outputs, and it's like, yeah, you have a spot memorized, but then the spot changes slightly and they don't know what to do because they're not learning how to like critically think about a situation. And so the process that we're going to teach will actually teach you how to critically think in a situation and come to the conclusions yourself, not just memorize and hope you get the right situation that you have memorized.
Obviously, I love that because it's also just infinitely more interesting to say interview someone who was consciously activating their brain to make these decisions. I mean, God bless the robots. I'm like happy for them, but that sounds so exciting. And where can the audience follow for baby pics?
Probably Emily's Instagram, but I'll try to post some more on my Instagram. And Instagram and Twitter for me are both at Chance's Cards.
Chance's Cards.
Yeah.
And I think it was Christian in the Twitter, all of us hate the incessant puns with Chance's name and everyone else's names.
I saw this question.
Like, everyone hates it. I understand it's funny if you're a blogger, but how much do you love it as a poker player?
For me, it's kind of like a haha. Like it's not a big deal. It doesn't bother me at all. I mean, I've seen them all, obviously, at this point. So I wouldn't say that I have a strong feeling about it either way. Like, it's a layup if you're a poker blogger. Like, it seems easy. You got to take it, right?
That's what I was just going to say, though. You're not like, oh my gosh, what a witty, clever genius that boy was.
But I'm sure that, like, my relatives, when they follow, like, a final table, and, like, they're not following me regularly. So, like, when I make a final table and they read it, they probably love it, you know? So it's like, you got to know who your audience is. And I think it's good for the non super root community. Like anyone that's just on the outside of it, I think that it's, they probably really enjoy it.
Well, the blogging world will appreciate that from you for sure. Sarah Herring says, just give us the facts, please. Thank you. But I just wish you luck, Chance. Thank you so much for taking the time. And I cannot wait to get my hands on your little baby and also your wife. Let's be honest. I miss her. I love you, but like.
She's going skiing right now. Go meet her in the mountains.
Get out.
Yeah.
You in Colorado?
No, we're in Vegas, some little hill here. I don't even know where they're going.
Oh gosh, Colorado people, we can't be bothered with that. Come on.
I was like, I don't really want to go, babe. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay, thanks, guys.
I have to play this 3,500 at the Wynn today.
Super important, and this will be the one that you will win. By the way, just FYI.
Maybe.
The one that you just chose in the morning or the night before with not
Joe
1 year.
McKeon won the 25K yesterday, or 10K, one of the two. He was a day late as well, so maybe I'll get to be a day late in this 3,500.
That's it. That's what you guys need to do. Just like jump into the next thing right afterwards. All right. Well, I appreciate it. I have to go mess with my audio and figure out like now something, since I'm not this technical wizard, but I just appreciate talking to you. It's so nice. And yeah, give big smooches.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. And if you can't figure out your audio and we have to redo it, let me know.
God. Oh God, please hope not. I'll just leave your answers.
Welcome back, everybody. So good to hear from Chance Kornuth. He is just a player that I really appreciate and somebody who is, I think, really well known actually for not having any blow-ups or not feeling, emotional or volatile. And so I really appreciated him sharing that was a pretty devastating blow. But 2 days later, he was ready to go hit the win up and keep playing poker. He's a dad. That's his job. That's what he's got to do. And for those who are listening, you did miss like the first 5 minutes of the conversation with Chance for similar reasons, as I was streaming live with Chance and my audio was just way too quiet in the beginning. But for those who want to know, we were basically just talking about how Chance also has a live-in nanny. And how wonderful it is to have a child when you have a live-in nanny and someone who wakes up with the baby in the night, and you just get to have the baby when you need and want it and hand it away when you can't take it anymore. And I told him we have this running joke about Phil Galfond's night nanny on our show, and he said, oh, Phil told me he didn't have a nanny. So we're definitely getting some like deep, juicy dad gossip here at the PokerNews podcast. I feel like we need to find out from Phil Galfond what the story is, if he was just trolling Chance, which sounds pretty standard.
You have a whole team of nannies, right?
Yeah.
Like really just a whole staff around the house
all the time. Like, you think I do laundry? You think I cook dinners?
Everything is taken care of. Yeah.
Get out. Yeah.
Just checking.
Those poor poker players don't know anything about it. All right, well, let's talk a little bit more while we're on the world of the World Poker Tour. Let's talk WPT 500 on Party Poker, maybe.
Yeah. Let's talk WPT 500 really quick, because there's just another one of these massive events that Party Poker put up. Party Poker has had this partnership with the World Poker Tour for a couple of years now, and it was Dylan Rowe taking that one down, a $530 buy-in, and he wins $181,000 in a really impressive final table performance. The big news that's coming out of the World Poker Tour today, we chatted a couple of weeks ago about Allied selling the WPT over to Element, a company that we really didn't know that much about. It looks like Bally's Corporation, which is separate from Caesars, that owns a hotel named Bally's. This is a different corporation. Bally's coming in hot at the last second and says, 78 million? How about 90 million for the World Poker Tour? And I was like, okay, that sounds good to us. Our deal with Element was not completed, I guess. We were taking better offers if there were better offers to be had. This is a better offer to be had. I think Element will get a chance to match this or maybe go beyond the $90 million. But as of right now, it looks like Allied is selling the World Poker Tour to Bally's Corporation, a corporation that owns, I think, in the range of 10 to 15 casinos across the world. So pretty good deal for the World Poker Tour. We're a little bit more familiar with Bally's than we were with Element. So again, it's Bally's coming in hot at the end, about 6 weeks after World Poker Tour announced that it would be sold to Element.
I gotta wonder, like, far be it for me to weigh in on these sort of business deals that are 90 million figures, but something just like, why would you even announce the first deal in the first place if it wasn't a
that's
done
what
deal?
I don't get. Right.
And so, like, I don't know, maybe I guess maybe they're like, let's put it out there, there's this clause in the contract, maybe we'll get a better offer. Like, let's put it out there what we're getting, maybe we'll get a better one. And in this case they did. Like I said, far be it for me to give expert advice on something like this. It's so far out of the realm of my area of expertise, but I certainly couldn't help but wonder, like, how does this even happen when a deal is supposed to be in place? You would think that the contracts would be signed, but apparently here there was some wiggle room or some sort of clause in there that has allowed this to kind of do a 180 on us.
Like, this feels a little bit at a couple of things. One, I feel used as a person in the media. Like, I feel like we were
How
like,
do you think Element feels?
It was a deal, and we're like, new deal, everyone. This is a news story we all should be talking about, but actually not really a deal 100%. We were just like trying to make you jealous or something. Like, I kind of feel like I'm in the middle of a breakup, or I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about this whole thing, but it definitely feels like we've been bamboozled.
I think so.
I think not a real story, not a legit news story.
I think that's the perfect way to put it. I'm just kind of scanning the press release that came out in January when we thought the World Poker Tour was being sold by Ally to Element. It does say reached an agreement, but it says a definitive agreement. So, yeah, I don't know. It says the company's board of directors has approved the transaction. Who knows?
Okay. Well, for those who are listening to the podcast in the either audio or more traditional video format, we're going to run to a quick word from our sponsors really quick. And for those who
Once is a brand new online poker site founded by poker superstar Phil Galfond, who has the player's experience at heart. Run It Once plans to make online poker fun and less predatory while providing ample rewards and innovative features at the same time. All new Run It Once players who download the software via PokerNews are entitled to a 100% deposit bonus worth up to €600. What makes this welcome bonus unique is that you can make as many deposits as you like for that first 30 days after your first deposit. This makes it perfect for those players who do not want to or cannot deposit $600 in one chunk. Be sure to check it out at once.run/pnpod. That's once.run/pnpod.
But there are more stories to talk about. So I mentioned, and Chance mentioned in his interview, that he was headed off to play the Wynn Spring Classic. We also, of course, talked to the head of poker operations, I believe was his title. Maybe it said executive in his name too, something very fancy. Chad talked to Ryan a couple weeks ago about the Wynn Spring Classic. Yes, Deborah says the audio is good. You want to take this one, Chad, since you and the Wynn are like...
Yeah, the Wynn Classic 2021 Spring Classic is actually happening right now. There's still some events left on their schedule, but one of the biggest events took place over this past weekend. It was a $3,500 buy-in, $1 million guaranteed tournament. It blew by that guarantee, almost doubled it. 614 runners. It was a absolutely stacked field. Mo Nuara was there for PokerNews doing live updates all weekend long. I was following along closely and was just very impressed with the quality of that field. And after 3 long days of play, the tournament came to an end with a heads-up deal. It was Sung-Ju Hyun, who goes by Arte. He's a streamer. He won a bracelet this summer in the GGpoker WSOP events. And also Matthias Auer out of Austria. They struck a heads-up deal, $323,000 a piece, and they decided to, it was actually $1 difference in prize money. They decided to leave that $1 and the trophy up for grabs by doing a best of 3 flip. So just, run out some hands and the best of 3 wins it. And it ended up being Sung-Ju Hyun. Arte taking it down for the official win, gets the trophy. Some others at that final table Will the Thrill Faea was a blast from the past. One of my favorite people. He ended up finishing third for $173,000. Eric Afriat, a WPT champion 3 times over, $121,000 for finishing in 4th place. Then you had Matthew Wantman in 5th, Mihai Manoli in 6th, and then at the final table finishing 8th for almost $46,000. One Chris Mormon. So yeah, pretty stacked field. They got another $1 million guaranteed tournament coming up this weekend. That one's a $1,600 buy-in, but by all accounts, the Wynn Spring Classic, a big success. Also, there was a $10,000 high roller that got 83 runners, and that was won by Joe McKeon, 2015 World Series of Poker main event champ, who just days earlier had finished runner-up in the WPT Venetian. So Joe McKeon on fire here to start off 2021.
Wow. Well, it's back, guys. Poker is back. We've been saying it for the last couple weeks, but I do think if Vegas is any indication of what we can kind of expect, I guess it started with Florida, then it's moved to Vegas, like all good things do. And hopefully we will see Europe maybe sometime soon. I don't know. Just saying.
I think you're going to see more and more, like you said. There's rumblings. The WSOP isn't going to happen this summer as planned. That's kind of face up and apparent at this point, but it does sound like there's something coming down the road, maybe in the fall area. But that's going to open the door for a lot of these other events, like the Wynn, like Venetian, to hold some great great summer live events. Do this little series of their own. I think there's going to be great value there. I'm also hearing word from one poker tour in particular who are going to be announcing some stops. An award-winning poker tour will be announcing some 2021 stops very soon. And,
that's a dead giveaway.
Well, and then there's just more. You see the Mid-States Poker Tour is continuing to roll. They're holding an event this weekend as well as the following weekend. PokerNews will be doing live updates from both of those. So it's slowly but surely these live events are starting to come back, and I'm certainly very excited about them. Obviously, I mean, head of live reporting for PokerNews US, I want to see as many of these events in the United States as I can. And then, like you said, Sarah, hopefully, fingers crossed that we start seeing some movement there, and I think we will. So
it's happening.
Well, Jeff, one of the stories I was not expecting to see in the outline for today was the highlighting of a first responder winning $175K on some slots on the Michigan Coop. Can you give me the heartwarming story so that someday I might too have a live-in nanny?
Yes, right. Your day is coming soon, Sarah. I think that to deliver the details of this amazing, heartwarming, very well written story on PokerNews, that we should turn things over to Chad to deliver the scoop on Brandon Holmes and his massive spike.
Yeah, so we mentioned it earlier in the episode. The MICOOP was taking place on PokerStars Michigan. It was the first kind of online series there. If you recall, PokerStars, FoxBet, both brands of Flutter, and Stars Casino, they all launched at the end of January 29th. And so the MICOOP was the first major online series. And Brandon Holmes he was celebrating his 48th birthday. He's a firefighter. He's a first responder. And in a past life, he was a former poker pro. Pre-Black Friday, he played quite a bit online. And so when the MICOOP came up, he said, all right, obviously I'm going to play this. And while he was waiting for some tournaments to start one day, he decided to go on to the Stars Casino, play the Divine Fortune slot machine that was offered on a $10 spin, which is about double his usual bet. He said he just decided to fire $10 spin, hits the jackpot, mega jackpot win for $175,000. It was the first jackpot win in that regulated market, at least the first highly publicized and well-known and big win. And one of the great things about what's going on in these regulated markets is you have the PokerStars, the Flutter machine, if you will. So they kind of got this story out there. And so Flutter with FoxBet is closely aligned with the Fox TV channels. That's why you see, if you've watched football over this last season, you've probably seen that win Terry Bradshaw's money, right? By making your pick six on during the football season on Fox Bet and things like that. You're seeing these promotions. There's one with NASCAR. Anyways, my point is they have this great synergy. And one thing we're seeing is Fox TV really and Fox News picked up this particular story. And so in the article itself at the bottom, there is an embedded video I recommend. You can get to know Brandon Holmes a little bit better and how he did, had that big win and kind of how it relates to poker. Because like I said, he used some of that money to play more MICOOP events. So yeah, just a good heartwarming story all around coming out of Michigan.
But also, like, how rich? $10 for a spin? That's crazy. Am I crazy?
That's expensive. That's
the slots experts, obviously. But like, doesn't $10 a spin seem a little rich for even normal people's blood or rich people's blood?
High roller for slots.
Do they? Yeah. I mean, Michigan is offering $10 slot spins, which means there's clearly some kind of an audience for this. Like, what's going on in Michigan that I don't know about? They all have live-in nannies for sure.
I saw Michigan made a ton of money on online gaming last month, and significantly more than even they made on sports betting last month. So that's going to convince more and more of these states to not just bring in sports betting, but to bring in online gaming as well, which hopefully in these states will include poker.
Wow. Yes. Ship it to mama, bring it in, you guys. That's where what is it they say, dollars to donuts or something, like where you put your money where your mouth is. Like when you can make money, that's when the politicians are going to all get behind. If we can get more money than the evangelicals and the like Indian casinos, maybe we have a chance to bring online poker back.
Except in Texas, Sarah, sorry. Probably not coming for a while in Texas.
Literally no chance.
Still going to be 20 years or so.
Yeah, you can just have these card rooms, which, they're in Texas, we'll still find a workaround. We'll find a way to make it happen, but the feds will probably just come periodically. Well, there's one more really juicy story that I think we've all been kind of anticipating and excited about. I guess you will maybe actually be able to cover this story for us, Jeff, since you don't like to cover the heartwarming stories. Let's talk about Daniel and Phil pushing their heads up challenge. I'm sure this cut into your schedule for the coming weeks. So things are opening up for you dramatically. What happened?
Yeah, we talked a lot about High Stakes Duel 2 featuring Phil Hellmuth versus Daniel Negreanu. Hellmuth, the reigning defending champion after knocking off Antonio Esfandiari in High Stakes Duel 1 3 straight times. They were scheduled to play March 16th. That was yesterday. There was a non-player COVID concern that pushed back the taping, the airing of High Stakes Duel 2. So now it is going to go off 2 weeks from today when we are recording this podcast, Wednesday, March 17th. So Wednesday, March 31st, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time, High Stakes Duel 2, Negreanu versus Hellmuth. Before they actually play, we're going to have the weigh-in featuring Nick Schulman talking to Hellmuth and Negreanu. I'm anticipating Hellmuth and Negreanu to do most of the talking. Probably not many questions need to be asked by Schulman. And then the day before, I believe, a hype show for High Stakes Duel 2 featuring Ali Nejad and Nick Schulman. So I'm excited about it. Gets pushed back a little bit. Maybe we can ramp up the anticipation even more. And 2 weeks away. It's coming soon.
Was it you, Jeff?
Wasn't me. I was not the non-player COVID concern. I do not have details at this time on who it was.
Yes, you do. I totally see you do. I feel like if it's a non-player, but someone that they would push the entire production for, it has to be someone who's like on camera or someone who's irreplaceable. You've got that dimple. Is it Ali Nejad? Is it Nick Schulman? Who has the Rona that's not talking about it, guys?
Oh man, maybe if it is Ali, I hope that Ali is doing well, but I'm happy to fill in for him if needed for High Stakes Duel 2. I don't know. Try to find out.
If you want to fill in for Ali, you just got to get those eyebrows like trimmed up real nice. You know what I'm talking. You can't compete with Ali's eyebrows. You might be able to do a good job commentating, but all right, fine. Well, we're gonna get to the bottom of this someday. The poker world is a very small world. But I'm glad that they are, playing it safe, if you will, and trying to keep it a secret for everyone. That's a big thing though, to push a production like that. I don't know how many people are local or how many people are flying in, but that definitely is a big shift. And I, for one, cannot wait to see all of that coverage. I actually am pretty excited. I really like Phil Hellmuth and Daniel Negreanu from an entertainment standpoint. And after the highlights I saw from No Gamble, No Future, I feel like we're in for some solid fireworks. I really hope that this one doesn't disappoint. Like, come on. Can we just have one of these turn into like a real heated battle?
Yeah. I don't see how it could disappoint. I think, I think that these guys will go off on each other at certain times. I mean, they're both ready. They're both really excited, and they're both willing to share their opinion and speak their minds. I don't really see how this could disappoint us.
Well, if you guys are looking to place a bet on the Daniel Negreanu versus Phil Hellmuth heads-up duel, StakeStars.com is the place to do it. StakeStars.com is the only site in the world listing Phil Hellmuth as the favorite. So if you're looking to bet on Daniel Negreanu, then StakeStars.com is the only place you want to be. Plus, wait for it, if you use the referral code MARCH, that's MARCH, when you join, you'll receive a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. StakeStars.com is also running their no markup March promotion, which allows you to select any player from any poker tournament in the world, and StakeStars.com will post that player at no markup. StakeStars.com has live chat support 24/7. If you have any questions, come get a piece of the poker action at StakeStars.com. So if you're not sure about, what the rules are of any certain matches, you can just jump in their chat. Hopefully they can answer for you. But I think this is kind of bananas, right? Like having... Maybe I need to go bet. Can I bet from Texas? I can't. You can't do that in Texas. What am I thinking? But I feel like having Phil as the favorite seems kind of like a bad deal for them, right?
Yeah, I mean, you would think, will pounce on Negreanu at that line when Daniel is anywhere from like -160 to -200 at different sites around the world. So there's your value right there. You want to fire Daniel, check out Stake Stars.
Wow. Okay, cool. So also Deborah was wanting to know if there's going to be the possibility to watch Daniel and Phil live, or it's all just going to be pre-taped and then shown after, or what's the story on the...
Yeah, but it will be, you'll see every single hand. It'll be a live broadcast at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time. And you won't know who wins before checking out that broadcast for sure.
That's on PokerGo, right?
That would be on PokerGo.
And you can save $10 off your annual subscription by putting in the code word PokerNews.
There you go.
Just throwing that out there. Hey, before we go, I want to ask you guys this. It's St. Patrick's Day right now.
Mm-hmm.
I know when people are listening to this, it'll probably be past, but I have, in honor of St. Patrick's Day, I have pulled up the Ireland all-time money list. And I just wanted to quiz you guys a little bit about this all-time money list and see if you had a guess as to who sits atop Ireland's all-time money list.
Padraig somebody?
You're thinking of Padraig Parkinson.
Yes.
He currently sits 6th on the list with over $1.8 million.
How about Dara?
You're thinking of Dara O'Kearney?
Yeah.
Is he Irish?
I believe so. I mean,
Okay.
It certainly sounds like it, but he is not on even close to the top of the money list.
Egan O'Day?
That's a good one. He's number 3 with 3.2 million. Coming in second with 3.8 million is Marty Smith, and then on top with
Steve O'Dwyer.
All right. If we could believe his claim to the Ireland flag, he certainly would be on top. But as it is on the Hendon Mob, $4.8 million. You might remember him for finishing 5th place in the 2005 World Series of Poker main event.
Jeff was like 4 years old when that happened. Okay.
It was one Mr. Andy Black.
Oh, Andy Black.
Old school.
Andy Black is Irish?
He certainly is, yes.
What? I feel like I interviewed him at the World Series of Poker Europe. Maybe I'm thinking of someone else.
Maybe you I mean, it could be Andy Block, but this is Andy Black. I don't know. Maybe
I
He's up
must be
there.
thinking. I'm thinking of the monk, the poker monk guy. He's definitely
Yeah, that's
not
Andy
Irish.
Black. That's Andy Black. Yeah.
He's Irish?
Yeah.
Does he just not have a strong accent?
I mean,
It's pretty strong, I
yeah,
would
it's pretty
say.
strong.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I'm out of it then. And also, wasn't Yogan O'Day's dad a big
Yeah.
poker player with lots of earnings?
Yeah, so Donica O'Day, he's
Donica.
10th on the list with 1.3 million, and then like we said, Aowen O'Day is third with 3.2 million. So got that father-son combo in the top 10.
That's what you hope for. You hope that your kids just dominate you in everything that you do. You can just leave behind that legacy. Man, all right. Well, what are you guys doing for St. Patty's Day? What are people who are without child doing for St. Patrick's Day so I can live vicariously through you?
Nothing too exciting over here. I mean, it is a Wednesday, so I think I'll probably just take it easy. Maybe find a place where I can get a good Reuben or some corned beef, right? And then watch. This is the final night for season 8 of High Stakes Poker. This is episode 14. It's going to be the last episode. We're doing recaps on PokerNews, so I'll probably sit down, watch that, enjoy that, and then do the recap for PokerNews.
I got to go to the dentist. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Wow.
Hate the
Way to go,
dentist.
Vegas. Jeff's really holding it down there in
Yeah,
Sim
really,
City for
really
us.
going ham.
Hopefully he'll be at least like, well, I'm using the green drill. It's St.
Yeah.
Patrick's Day.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's awesome.
Man, I've had quite a few St. Patty's Days in Las Vegas, and
I'm sure you have. Yep.
yeah, I will be waking up feeling better tomorrow than I have in many St. Patty's Day post days before. And yeah, Christy and Lynn both, shout out to my girls out there. We've had some pretty solid hangovers, I think, from St. Patty's Day, but not anymore. Now I'm a grown up. Now I work. Now
don't drink. Yep.
I do all the serious stuff. And thank you guys so much for bearing with me to try to figure out all of this, live streaming stuff. I've got a few more things to work on, but I think we're going to get this figured out. I might just need to get like a few more screens and get super high tech and all of that. But I appreciate you guys. And thank you so much for listening. Thank you to all of our sponsors. You can get at us on the Twitters at Auntie Chardonnay, at Jeff Platt, at Chad A. Holloway. If you have any stories or anything interesting you think we should cover, anyone we should interview. I believe next week we will have on the show Miss Veronica Brill, and you guys do not want to miss that interview. It is a really, really good interview, not because of me, but because she's like a really cool, interesting person. All right, catch you guys on the flip side. Deuces. Finish.